Build her life after getting diagnosed with cancer last year. Nicola Fairbrass discovered a lump in her breast while she was simply reaching for a cup of tea, and what followed was a long battle with intense chemotherapy and radiotherapy, which turned her life upside down. And to make the whole nightmare worse, if that's possible, she'd just set up her own business, which under normal circumstances is an exhausting undertaking. Now I'm happy to say Nicola is cancer-free, but she's left with the challenge of readjusting to a normal life, and she's here with me now. Hello, welcome Nicola, and your husband Paul, who's here to support you. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So many questions. Let's start with your diagnosis. And I suppose for a lot of people with cancer, they're not necessarily ill. They don't go to the doctor because they're ill. So for you found a lump purely by chance.
Yes. So just going back to October, I started the Barking Mad business and everything was going great. And then you rewind to December. And at the beginning of December, we'd just gone to bed on a normal evening as we would. We'd taken a cup of tea to bed. I'd probably reached, I'm right-handed, and I probably reached with my left hand, and brought it round, which would be an unusual position to be in. And I felt a lump. And as we all do, I Googled to see what I should do. And basically, a lot that came up was that it could be a cyst. It could be hormonal, so I left it for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks into December, I felt it on feeling it again. It had got a bit bigger, so I went to the doctors, and they fast-tracked me to the hospital. Basically, from then they put me through a mammogram, an ultrasound, and then finally took a biopsy on the 18th of December, and then made me an appointment for the 2nd of January.
Oh, it's like the worst Christmas break ever.
Yes, it was. So that was my results day. So on going through all that and coming home, I was already preparing myself for the worst case scenario. I think as a woman, your mind runs away with you when you go through the worst case scenarios. Whereas Paul and my daughter Gabby probably buried their head in the sand and thought, this is not going to happen, it's going to be nothing.
So they kind of brushed it off.
Yes.
And how was that for you?
It was okay. I mean, initially when I come home, I sort of put it to the back of my mind that we had to get on with Christmas and New Year. We had a family New Year party and things like that. So I had to sort of prepare for that. But basically, 1 minute it's not in your head, the next minute it comes into your head thinking it's nothing, and then you think of the flip side that it could be it. This could be, I could have cancer everywhere, because you don't know what's going on in your body.
Yeah, so you get the diagnosis at the beginning of January, and then what's the process regarding the cancer?
Basically, initially when I went in for on the 2nd, they told me that the lump was quite a size, and that I would have to have a mastectomy, followed by chemo and radio. And the surgeon booked me in straight away for a mastectomy. But then on going into another room with the breast care nurse, she just gave me a little heads up and said, why don't you try chemo first and see if you could shrink the lump to make it smaller so you could have a lumpectomy. And it's obviously a smaller surgery. I get to keep my breast, and my mum has had breast cancer twice. She's had a lumpectomy and a mastectomy, so I've seen it all go on in front of me. So I opted for the lumpectomy. I thought that'd suit me better. It's not for everybody. Some people just want to get the cancer off straight away. So I went down the lumpectomy line. So I went for the chemo first. Now the chemo was horrendous.
So you can laugh about it now.
I can laugh about it. I wasn't laughing.
So what, I mean, you hear this, and I know people react differently to it, and the different strengths of chemo and the different ingredients they put in it.
Yes.
So how was that for you?
Basically, I was on a chemo called FEC-T, which is all the initials of the drugs that you have. You have 4 of FEC and then 4 of T, and they've both got different side effects. And the first 4, which was the FEC, I reacted really bad to. I ended up in hospital 3 times with infection because it attacks your immune system, and my immune just didn't react very well. So I ended up in hospital 3 times. I was put in bed on every cycle for a few days, where I couldn't even literally get up to eat, struggled to get to the toilet, and Paul then had to have time off with me. That bit was horrendous. The tea wasn't as bad and they downed my dose towards the end, so I reacted a bit better to that. But the whole thing was horrendous. But on the plus side, it did work. My lump was 43 millimetres, and it shrunk to 1.7.
Wow.
So I was able to have a lumpectomy. So, you know, it was horrendous, but it's been worth it in the long run because it's worked for me.
And Paul had to get his head out of the sand at that point. And I'm guessing when he saw
massively.
you so ill. Yeah.
And obviously my daughter, she's 19, and so she's had to see it play out. And it's not been the nicest year for her because she's been going through things like she's took a driving test. She's been on her first holiday this year, and so it's not been a nice year for her to see her mum that ill. And I've had to concentrate on myself. I've had to sort of push everybody away and just concentrate on my health and me. Because you just ain't got the space for anything else.
I'm glad to hear you say that, though, Nicola, because I think especially as a mum, you know, it can be easy to say I've got to put everyone else first. And I think in order for you to cope with this sort of thing and for you to get better, you absolutely sounds like you did the right thing. Stay there. I want to talk more to you about what happened with your business as well, which you just started, and the rest of your cancer journey. Thank you. I'll be back in a minute. You know how Fairbrass, a very brave Derby woman who is sharing her story with us of her cancer diagnosis, her breast cancer diagnosis, on the 2nd of January this year, and the journey that she's been through since then. Thank you, Nicola, for being so candid with us today. So you had just started your own business.
Yes. The business I'm running now is a franchise, but yeah, I just taken over in October.
And that's an exciting and difficult time,
yes.
You know. So you took that over in October, you found the lump in December, and you were diagnosed and started the chemo in January. What happened with the business? I mean, how did you cope?
Basically, I am lucky because it is a franchise. We've got a head office in the Lake District that do a lot of the take the phone calls and things like that anyway, and they've been really supportive. But then I had to get somebody else involved, and luckily I inherited a member of staff called Jane, and she has been running the day-to-days business, but basically I couldn't have done it without her. Somebody asked me whether I thought about giving up and handing it back, but it crossed my mind for 1 second. But it's such a lovely job. I was so excited about taking it on, and I just felt it were a new start to my life. And then obviously bang, this happens. But I was just so excited. I mean, working with dogs is lovely.
I can tell from the look on your face.
I just love dogs, and it was just the perfect opportunity. I were a barking mad customer, and that's why I found out that it was up for sale, and that's why I took it on. And I bought into the concept as a customer anyway, so it was really easy then to take it on as a business. But yes, the support from Ed Office and Jane has been absolutely fantastic, and I couldn't have got through it without them. I have been in the background doing things when I could. I even had an interview on radio in June about barking mad. So
nice.
I was in the throes of chemo at the time. So it's the support's been fantastic.
So business aside, you talked about how ravaging on you the chemo was and how difficult that was, and how initially your family's response to illness had been a little bit head in the sand, and then they had to kind of step up. How did they change in their support of you?
I mean, Paul's been absolutely fantastic. He's took time off when I've needed it. He's been to every chemo appointment with me. He's just given me his full support. But cancer is a really lonely place, and you feel like you're on your own in it. As I said, my mum's had breast cancer, and I felt I was being a true support to her at the time, but I didn't realise how actual lonely it is, and how detached you feel from everything, because you go from normal life into the cancer club. Yes, and it's not a nice
not
club.
Anyone wants to.
No.
I'll give my membership back now, thank you. I don't want to be in this club.
Yes, please. So I've gone into this cancer club, and you don't realise how intense it is. So the appointments that you have to attend and everything like that, it's so in depth. I had to have injections as well after chemo, 7 days, just to boost my immune system, and you don't realise all that actually goes on. So it's really intense. And when I first found out, I did eventually go onto Facebook and tell everybody that I'd got cancer, because I wanted their support. I didn't want them to cross the street and not want to talk to me. Things had changed, my hair were going and things like that. So I wanted to them to be normal with me, and I said I didn't want it to define me, but it does take over your life, and there's nothing you can do about it.
You talked about loneliness and being in this horrible club that no one wants to be a member of. What advice would you give to people now who maybe have a friend or a relative or a colleague, or even a friend of a friend, or somebody very close who is currently in the cancer club? What advice would you give to them on how they can support somebody and make them feel less lonely, or is it just not possible?
I don't think it's 100% possible, because, like I say, Paul's been great. I've had a lot of friends that have been great, but you don't want to be talking about it all the time. But then you've got nothing else in your life at that time to talk about, because your life's just completely changed, and the person that walked in for diagnosis on the 2nd is not the person sat here today. I feel I've been through a journey that I've been on my own with, and the support, take people out for a coffee, go round, sit with them on the worst days. That's my advice. But even then, it is difficult, because it is a lonely place.
So what about out the other side, which is where you're coming now? So
yes.
You are cancer clear.
I am cancer clear. I'm on radiotherapy at the moment. I've got another 13 sessions, but the machine's broke for the last 2 days or so. So they're going to be tagged onto the end. But so I've just got to get through radio, but that's just the belt and braces stuff. It's just in case there's any cells left there to get rid of. But going forward, I'm just so looking forward to taking Barking Mad back up and getting out there. Like I say, I love the job. I think that shines through, and we all love, everyone that is involved in Barking Mad love their job, and just dealing with dogs, I no disrespect to any person out there, but I prefer dogs to people.
Sorry, Paul. Supportive husband sitting in the corner, second fiddle to a dog. So do you feel you talk about being a different person than the person that got the diagnosis, and of course it's going to be life-changing, but do you feel there are irrevocable changes in you and your outlook on life and how you're going to take yourself forward?
Yes, definitely, and I've had a few months of trying to get to grips with that, and like I say, being a different person, and you want to embrace life because you've had a year out of it, and not everybody else feels the same because they've been doing their normal job and everything, and I've been stuck in a house a lot over the last year, and I just want to go out and do things now, and Paul's more reluctant because he'd rather sit on the settee when it's cold.
He's like, I really
can't be bothered. And obviously your body's changed, your mindset's changed. The thing with this cancer, I always suffered from depression before, and it's really turned that on its head, because I've gone from, suffering from depression and sometimes not enjoying life to wanting to grasp it with both hands. So in one respect, it's done my depression the world a good. But in the other... If
I heard a glass half full sentence in my life, Nicola, that is it. I'm going to hold on to that sentence. I love that. That's a great thing to hear.
But I'm not recommending it. I'm not recommending it, not in the slightest. No,
okay.
Just go and have antidepressants. Don't go through chemo.
Well, listen, I hope the rest of your radiotherapy goes well. And like you say, it's belt and braces, not too awful, is it, the radiotherapy? No. And the best of luck with Barking Mad. Explain to us exactly what Barking Mad is.
So basically, it's a home-from-home alternative to kennels dog boarding. I have hosts on the books that are general public that are missing a dog in their life and don't want to commit to a dog, which I vet and make sure they're guard and secure and that they are doing it for the right reasons. And then I've got the customers that go on holiday, and basically it's a dating agency. I tie the two together. So I don't put a Great Dane with a little old lady that can't handle it.
Fair enough.
She'll get the chihuahuas or the nice little dogs. And then I've got some fitter, healthier people that'll do the golden retrievers and things like that. And it's such a lovely business. I just love it with every part of me. I'm just so excited about getting back to it.
Well, I can see that. I can feel that coming off you. And it's been a real pleasure having you in the studio. You are a huge inspiration.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're an inspiration to anyone who's just received a cancer diagnosis or is going through this or has family going through this. And, you're a credit your family are a credit to you as well for supporting you through this. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. And best of luck with Barking Mad and everything else.
And can I just say thank you to Derby Hospital.